Welcome to InformNation, where knowledge is not information until it's shared. I'm your host, Aixa Rodriguez, and we're here with Dermott Myrie, teacher, chapter leader, activist, and UFT candidate 2019 for president of the United Federation of Teachers. We're here talking about education in New York City, particularly with the schools that NYC deserves. So Myrie, we've been talking about at large what's been happening across the nation. We've been talking particularly about grassroots groups coming together and coalitions to push for changes they would like to see, more community control, and bringing it back to the needs of teachers that impact students' lives, the school conditions. One of the demands for Black Lives Matter was counselors, not cops. Could you tell us more about, you're actually a trained school counselor, yeah. Yes?
Yes, so it's a good question, great question. So in our schools, there's a concept idea called social emotional needs. So it's what students is going through, their emotions, how they relate societal means, how are they aware of themselves, how are they aware of others around them, how do they build relationships, trust, and express themselves. That's what it is, everyone, we all do it, it's psychology. So if these needs are not being addressed for whatever reason, we have so many students who are homeless. We have students whose family members have been in the penal system. We have some students themselves who have been through the juvenile detention system. We have some students who are oppressed, not getting the things that they're supposed to based on zip codes or whatever it is. So we really have a lot of things dealing with. We have students who come here new to the country. We welcome them. However, they need to have resources. And if these students' needs are not being met, then it's a problem. So the first person in contact is a counselor. So a school counselor, it's not guidance anymore, it's the G word, we are professional school counselors. I do not work in that capacity, however, because roles have changed. So the American School Counselor Association recommends that for a real school counseling program to take place, every child needs to have a plan. So
Every child?
Every child. So it could be my child or somebody else's child who has perfect attendance, almost perfect grades, behavior is up there, nice.
They should have a plan.
They should have a plan, because remember, college starts in elementary school. So the way you're trained and what counselors should be doing in schools is getting each child to do an inventory to check out what high schools are they going to be going through in the middle school.
What interests they have.
What interests they have. It's documented. And they start doing a process of elimination. 6th grade, they may have 4 high schools they want to go to. 7th grade, they have 3, or whatever it is. I'm just putting on some numbers, but it gets reduced as they go along, and they build an awareness of what's out there. They build the connections. Counselors are teaching students of what's out there, how to deal with inappropriate behaviors, how to deal with respect. So it's not just being punitive, but corrective, being proactive. If you want
planning for the future.
Planning for the future as well. So it's college and career readiness, and social and emotional needs. We also,
that sounds like a lot.
A lot, and also balancing and making sure that achievement gaps are closed, attainment gaps, educational gaps are closed. The school council has a lot. So the current rate is 487.
Is that the ratio? The current
ratio now 487 to 1.
Could you explain restorative justice a bit?
Yes, so restorative justice is this idea that we show empathy for both the victim and the perpetrator in anything that may have happened in a school. So take, for example, I'm in a school, I may bully the student, we have a conversation, a circle is open up, somebody who's trained, cannot be done by anybody, has to have some form of training in it. I do have some training, not the full training, but I do have some training. And we have a conversation. There's norms that are followed in the circle. Everyone is on the same level, including the facilitator, which is an adult. And everyone has a voice. They relate as to what went wrong, what can be done better, and the victim is, is shown empathy, is validated. The victim also has a voice to say what happened. So it's not just holding hands and saying, hey, 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 and somebody's out the door, as my president is saying after UFT.
This is Michael Mulgrew.
Yeah, he said it, yeah, holding hands. That's what he said.
This is an alternative to punitive discipline.
Yeah, it's an alternative where we could talk it out. That's what villages are built on in Africa. Native American establishments. That's where we get the Constitution of the United States. We listen to how the elders, we listen to our elders, we listen to the villages or communities, how they have a peaceful, amicable agreement based on something that may have been a mistake or intention, but it's worked out. So this is one alternative. We're not
teaching
saying
how to talk through problems, which is good. Speaking about teaching how to manage problems and how to manage situations, one of the rising groups of teachers are the young new teachers, new to the system, who have come from different pathways. One of the pathways, instead of a traditional, would be through teaching fellows or other, and one of the questions I had is, how are these people being served by the UFT or helped by the system to stay? There seems to be a challenge in some of the schools where turnover is very high with these teachers.
Yeah, so it's not really a challenge, it is a problem, it's a big issue. It requires intervention immediately. So as President Day One, we do have something that was put in the contract called the Bronx Plan. It should be a systemic plan coming from the city council members. If you're watching, this should be coming from you, where every school has the support it needs.
All right, not just particular schools?
Not just particular schools. The prerequisite in the contract was that there needs to be collaboration between principal and chapter leaders. In some schools it doesn't happen, because as chapter leader, I'm the contract enforcement officer in that building to make sure things are followed. Is there proper class size? I'm going to enforce it. Does another chapter leader do it? I don't know. Well, I've got to make sure I do it. So federal laws are followed, state laws are followed.
Class size is a challenge for many younger teachers who don't have the class management skills. Is that a reason why some frustration and for some exiting and retention issues?
And people will exit if you don't have sanity. High social and emotional needs, again, needs to be addressed by a licensed counselor. So, case in point, if you do not have adequate school counseling program in your school to address these issues, it relies on the teacher. It depends on the teacher. Chancellor Farina, in her letter on April 17, 2017, I'm just using my photographic memory, she said here, we cannot just run kids outside of classrooms. We need to go to the root cause. So going to the root cause cannot be a teacher. It has to be a counselor or a group of counselors.
And the younger teachers, are they getting any support?
The younger teachers need support. And here's the problem, and that's why I'm running for the president of the UFT. When you have a new teacher, they say, oh, they have a contract there. If something's not right in your room, you need to file a grievance. For those who are watching, a new teacher cannot file a grievance because you're going to be retaliated against, because it's saying that who are you to challenge an administrator about something that goes wrong. So first defense, they would have to come to me, the chapter leader, to file a grievance. Their name gets out there if it's one person.
So they're vulnerable?
They're vulnerable.
Even when they're just questioning what this in the contract?
It could be that way, because I could tell you stories myself, even me, as an outspoken advocate, which I will be outspoken, as I'm speaking about my students and my teachers, their rights need to be respected. It's people in a room who have had a contract, meeting halfway, compromising. So it's not left up to interpretation. Anybody can interpret the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the contract, but at the end of the road, it tells you specifically what needs to be done.
And class size is a big thing that parent advocates and allies have been bringing up.
Yes, so a lot of people, Leonie Heimson, for example, AQE, We ourselves in more have been talking about class size. We need to reduce it, whether it's federal, maybe.
What's the current cap?
It's 13 middle schools. I don't quite remember how many in high schools, but in special needs classrooms, it's 12 to 1 to 1, one paraprofessional to one teacher. That needs to be cut down to like 8. In middle schools, we're recommending it should be about 22 cap. So teachers can do what they like to do best and teach. Having extra students, if we're going to be equitable, we got to do it like other counties in other places, whether it's in Rensselaer County or in Orange County or wherever county in New York State. We're getting equitable class sizes so things can be done. So in the contract, it's always, oh, we can't talk about it. Yes, we can talk about class sizes. Everybody around the country are talking about class sizes. So, and this cuts down on co-location. This gives students place to learn.
That's another big
and
thing.
That's another big thing with instructional footprints in schools. As we're talking and we're doing this real estate grabs in our schools, this is something that needs to be talked about. So right now, that's one of my agenda. On day one, I'm going to sit down with the state legislators, and I'm going to have a preliminary round going around as to how we can best adjust class sizes, talk to the school construction authority, how to build new schools, CTE schools. As we're talking about specialized high schools, we also need to build CTE schools.
That's trade schools.
It's trade schools. We need to have at least 5 trade schools in New York City, and we need to build them and have students doing coding, HVAC, heat and ventilation and air conditioning. People are doing all these skills, mechanics, auto mechanics. We're having people doing infrastructure, optics, fiber optics, laying cable and all these things. These are these things that we're talking about as a UFT president.
So forgive me for asking this, but everything you've told me today doesn't seem to be focused on teachers. You've mentioned culturally relevant pedagogy and education and books and training and integration and programs for students, what parents have wanted. This doesn't sound like what people have been saying about Red for Ed or unions being selfish. So what is, it seems that everything you've been talking about is for students and communities.
Yes.
So could you tell me why would people perceive the role of a union that way?
Well, the 1%, the wealthy people in America, they want to break us up. So if you see Amazon, for example, my union here, UFT president, he signed on to a letter to get them back here. I don't know why he did that. I just asked.
Against community.
Against community voice. We had a letter going around circulating. We had 100 signees, signatures onto it. And we got the message out that we are a labor town. The labor movement here is in tandem, hand in hand with parents, with community groups to make the road, whoever it is who is fighting with us to have a livable environment, environmental justice, and fair living wages, and fair housing opportunities, and not escalated rents. So with that said, we are that voice. We, the movement of rank and file educators, not the UFT. As you saw what he did here, President Mulgrew, he signed onto a letter to welcome back people, Amazon to New York City, when outside of the community's voice. So he doesn't speak for the member. I just asked him a question ago. I won't go into it because they said what's said in the delegate assembly is silent. So let me put my duct tape on. But we have concerns about why he signed on to a letter to have Amazon come back here to New York City when he didn't consult the UFT membership, and that's undemocratic.
Yeah. So we're going to have to take a break, and please stay tuned. We'll come back soon. Welcome to InformNation, where knowledge is not information until it's shared. I'm your host, Aix Rodriguez. We're here with Dermott Myrie, candidate for UFT president on the More UFT slate. We've been discussing education in New York City. So, Myrie, we've been talking about many different things, including what has been happening across the nation, the Red for Ed movement, and to bring it back to New York City and more being part of the Red for Ed movement in New York City, what are the bigger concerns that teachers have for quality of life, the issues that are reflected in their contract that impact their ability to serve the students of New York well?
So I'll just say three slogans. One, you can't see it on my back, which is the slogan for more or students' learning conditions are our working conditions. So they're married. They're not separated. The next slogan is NYC schools deserve. And the third slogan is Reclaim Our Schools NYC. So everything here tells you what's going on. So in our schools, for example, people need to have a mindset, a frame of mind that's, they can come comfortable and work in a school and not being stressed.
Stressed by what?
There's so many stressors in our schools. Our students, some of them have high needs, stress on testing, high stakes. If you don't do this, you're not good. If you don't do this, you're a failure. If you don't do this.
Is this for students or for teachers?
It's both. Both are inseparable.
Both?
Yes. So we have these exams that students take. If they're not successful, the students are not successful. So I hear everybody been laughing, gloating about this new law that was just recently passed about districts now are going to decide what tests.
This is what was said on the state level?
Yes, state level. Districts are now going to get the opportunity to decide what tests teachers' evaluations are tied to. We're still tied to tests.
But it's still tests.
Yes.
So teachers are being evaluated based on tests that students take.
Yes. That's high stakes testing.
That's definitely high stakes.
So
testing is a concern.
It's a concern. So it's an issue. So with all that is things going on with testing, you see how serious it is.
What is happening when it comes to healthcare in the most recent UFT contract?
Well, in the recent UFT contract, I wrote a piece about it in the Daily News with a colleague of mine, Peter. We spoke about the contract, how the healthcare, I'm not going to go into it now, it's going to take too much time, but it's decided by the Municipal Labor Committee, the MLC, which is a group of unions that come together, pool their resources, and they negotiate with healthcare. So what happens, based on what we come up with, DC 37, I do not have anything about them, but I did have to call them out for just taking this cheap shot deal with the mayor. And it's led the space to a precedent negotiation, and then the UFT just followed right in on it.
So UFT didn't negotiate on its own?
It really didn't negotiate on its own because DC 37 has already taken
followed a pattern.
A pattern bargaining is called. But however, if we had real leadership, we would have decided that this was not the way to go. And we did put the pressure on to the leadership. So even in the percentage raises that we got, 2.5, 2.53, at first it was 222, just like what DC 37 got. So we did put the pressure on to this leadership and tell them, based on our article in the Daily News, and people were saying, what's going on? And they got it. So that's what, so to bring back here, healthcare, for example, I'm just going to tell you, for new teachers, new educators who are employed coming this September, when you join up, you're not going to have our GHI, the Group Health Incorporated, the GHI healthcare that we have. You're going to have a lower healthcare system. You're going to be in a different system until 1 year in here. No,
so you don't even have choice.
You don't have choice. So you're just going to be giving you a lower health care, and you're saying it's good. So that's what was one of the things in the contract. We voted against it. I voted against it. We didn't want that. Working conditions, again, people were given a psychological evaluation. So when I become president, these are some issues we may have to, since it's in the contract, for now, it was just a little space in it, and we did ask about it. It was a little sentence in the contract. If you want, if you want to hide something, just put it in.
So people don't read it or don't have time. They
So
can't
what
see
we
it.
do in more the movement of rank and file educators, we read everything. We read the periods, we read the dots, we read the exclamation points, or there's a question
All the
mark.
details are
All the
paid
details.
attention to.
Yes, so learning conditions, again, so biologically it's affecting a lot of our workers. A lot of them are getting sick. I'm going to conduct a study to see what's going on, how many people are being impacted by abusive administrators based on stressors in the tests, based on people not getting enough.
You mentioned admin abuse before.
Admin abuse, all these things here. I'm also going to be, been trying to talk to my assemblyman who I know very well, trying to see if he can put up a legislation, a bill talking about mental health wellness. Administrative bullying, adult bullying on the workplace is unacceptable. It's ineffective. It should not happen. And we need to come up with some case studies to show that we need to have some sanity in the workplace.
Yeah, the workplace issues, workplace bullying is something people have been talking about for a while. One question that I had to do with healthcare, but it also had to do with the quality of life as well. There's something that's connected there. Teaching being a female-dominated profession, what happened most recently with maternity leaves and parental leave versus family leave? Because this impacts quality of life.
Yes,
the school year, it runs a certain way, and timing of pregnancies can't always be happening. How are women's rights and families' rights being preserved?
So I'll just say this. If the UFT has been there for years, this leadership has been there for years, and you didn't realize, you didn't see, you didn't analyze that people have to have time off to have their babies and get paid, if you didn't see that, it's problematic. Where have you been? So to bring it back, it was a rank and filer, not a member of MORE, but a regular, ordinary rank and filer who was affected by this issue and decided she wanted to take it up to get paid parental leave. Paid parental leave is for those going on maternity leave. Usually people do not get paid. So we had this 1960 agreement from when the UFT was formed, going back where people weren't getting paid for taking maternity leave. So luckily, there was this viral petition that went out, and she was able to get to the voice of the leadership repeatedly. Weren't receptive at first, I will say that loud, until finally, but the people has a voice, and when people speak, they speak with power. So people were empowered, and the leadership listened, and they were finally able to get that in with paid parental leave. For 6 weeks, you're paid. However, listen up carefully, if you're a newbie, new teacher, that won't apply to you.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So that's happened. You have to work for a year. So that's that. So it's not all that's equal is equal.
And what's the difference between parental leave and family leave?
Good. So to get back now, so family leave, that is what I want. So I have aging parents because I'm not young. So I have aging parents. So if they're sick, I would need perhaps a week to spend time with an aging parent. Luckily, they're not, my parents do not have terminal illnesses, but if they will or whatever, I would like to spend a week off and get paid. So that's what we're fighting for. So thanks to the UFT for listening to the voice for once, but it was so national they had to listen, and they were being put on the radar, and they were able to get the paid parental leave, but we need family leave. And we're not going to rest until we get family leave. A lot of us are aging in the system. I just read the data that more new teachers are coming in, but however, we've been there in these trenches, and we need to be respected. Educators need to be respected. Rank and file UFT members need to be respected. We are professionals, we have degrees, and we need to be respected.
Speaking of the respect, pay parity is another issue that has been brought up for certain members of the UFT. And the UFT has more than teachers in its ranks.
Yes, so we have so many chapters. We have nurses, we have the OT, PT, as I said before, OT, PT, occupational therapists, physical therapists. These are the people that do not have paid parity. Before, their cap was like $80,000. A UFT member runs more than that into triple digits, above that into the hundreds. So, and Bloomberg was the one that really put salary up to match these race to the top grant that's sent from PBO, President Barack Obama. So he sent this up the turnpike, race to the top. We can increase people's pay if you're gonna do outcome. Students' scores are up. So that was a matching fund to get people up. However, we still have that today. It's now as what it is what it is. We have decent salaries, but salaries...
But does it follow inflation?
No, it doesn't. So that was the part in the piece, and we don't know what's coming yet. And as I've been watching the market a lot, I don't know who watches the market. I hope the leadership is watching the market. If there's volatility in this market, be careful. I know our pensions are protected, but how do you adjust for inflation when your rents goes up? Or food price go up, transportation go up. We see the MTA here is doing some stuff, trying to do it. Congestion pricing. If you come here, you work in Manhattan, and you got to pay that $275 going down.
Yeah.
Hello. So we're talking some real things here as these variables,
the New York economy,
as added in, and so on and so forth.
Speaking of New York in particular, MORE being the New York Social Justice Caucus, what is on the MORE's platform?
There's so many things on it. Priority is this fair student funding. We need to talk about equitable funding, where we give schools what they need. So if your daughter is in Bensonhurst and she comes here to the Bronx, hey, there's no problem. She has the same materials, same access to counselors.
From school to school.
School to school. So that's what we're talking about. I know we have our own persona in schools. So you may have an Arabic program. You may have a Jewish program, because we have a whole variety of schools in New York City public schools and religions. So until we have, and we also have the free thinkers as well. We need to talk about those people as well, and making sure their needs are met. So as we think about these things here, we need to make sure that we address all these issues.
What's one thing that everybody should know about the election coming up?
Good. So as my whole platform is so big, so you could go to the website as a plug, MORE UFT, Facebook, MORE UFT, Twitter, MORE UFT, Caucus, the website. What you need to know is that anyone you know, you need to tell them to go and vote for MORE, the Movement of Rank and File Educators. We are the Social Justice Caucus. We're fighting against displacement, school closures. You could see us on a live stream from the PEP that we goes to Panel for Educational Policies for years. We've been fighting for the end displacement, whether we are in Chinatown, where they displaced those people from our apartment building. We had to go there with those people on hunger strike, fighting for things in the subway. Fighting
for social justice.
For social justice, food, Muslims, students needs to get pork-free products in schools.
Halal and kosher meals.
Halal and kosher meals for both religions. Vegans, vegetarians, you need to be addressed as well, your nutrition needs. And
so all the intersectional issues.
All the intersectional issues.
Thank you so much, Myrie.
So many. But vote for us. We are the team you need.
Thank you so much, Myrie, for coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for watching InformNation, where knowledge is not information until it's shared. I'm your host, Aixa Rodriguez. See you next time.